Good evening and welcome to the January 18th meeting of the Lake Forest City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Honorable James Cowhey.
Here.
Alderman Grumhaus.
Here.
Alderman Novit.
Here.
Alderman Woodman.
Here.
Alderman Moore.
Here.
Alderman Morsch.
Here.
Alderman Schoenheider absent. Alderman Luby.
Here.
Alderman Palmer.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent. Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Bertie. You'll please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first order of business this evening is reports of city officers, the first being comments by mayor. We have a number of appointments that I'd like to go through this evening, the first being an appointment of William Andersen to the Fire Pension Board to fill the unexpired term of Graham Cook, which expired May 2011. I have to get used to saying that one. The copy of the volunteer profile sheet is attached beginning on page 10. Any discussion? If not,
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next appointment is an appointment of Jennifer Altounian Bianchi to the Gorton Center Commission for a term of 2 years. That profile sheet is again attached beginning on page 11. Any discussion in this regard?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Our next appointments are approval of appointments to the CROYA Board, and we do have a number of those. Christopher Wild, the chairman, for 1 year. Susan Bachelis, Ward 2 for 2 years. Elena Hender, Ward 3 for 2 years. James Steele, Ward 4 for 2 years. Marcy Kerr, Ward 2 for 1 year. We have 3 students, Colin Danley, Megan Wally, and Jack Herms for 1 year. Any questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next one is Housing Trust appointments, and I know we're missing an alderman this evening, and he has asked if we could put this off till the next meeting. He'll be back on February 7th. I request his request will be granted, so we will put that off until the 7th. If anyone has any questions or comments of the individuals on there, please let me know or Bob Kiley know. We are still trying to get, did we get all of the profile sheets, Bob? I know some were sent out again today, but we can get those included. Very good. The only other comment I have, certainly this is for Lovey Smith. Go Bears. Concludes my comments. Next item on the agenda is comments by City Manager Bob Kiley.
Members of the council this evening. It's my pleasure to introduce our special guest, our community spotlight on Lake Forest Symphony, and we have this evening with us Mr. George Squirrels, Mr. Jim Stevens. Gentlemen, would you mind coming forward to the front? To the podium, okay.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting us to represent the Lake Forest Symphony, now in its 53rd year. So although we're not 150 years old, we're catching up. We are delighted as we prepare for this season. Last year, Alan Hetherington, who unfortunately could not be with us this evening because we do have a concert this week, wanted to include a special evening, 2 special evenings, specifically on March 4th and 5th, to honor the city of Lake Forest by dedicating 2 concerts to the sesquicentennial celebration. I too have one thing to say, and that is, in addition to Go Bears, Mr. Mayor, I would like to also wish you all a happy birthday. The community spotlight right now should not be Lake Forest Symphony, but rather the city of Lake Forest, as you celebrate your 150th birthday coming up on the 21st of February, if I recall. Part of the Symphony's plan is the following. On the 4th and 5th of March, we are hopeful that there will be an official delegation from the city of Lake Forest to attend the Symphony concerts at CLC until we have our own Lake Forest Performing Arts Center 1 year down the road. To hear the outstanding, fully professional orchestra, Lake Forest Symphony, the only one of its kind in Lake County. We will be inviting the winner of the Steinway competition, the concerto competition of Steinway, yet unnamed. We don't know who this individual is and will be, but we do know that that individual will be coming to the Lake Forest Symphony to play a concerto with LFS. We will in addition be offering Schubert's 9th Symphony called The Great, because in honor of Lake Forest, it is equally so. And our guest tonight with me, Jim Stevenson, a Lake Forest resident, internationally acclaimed composer and conductor, has written an overture called Celebration Overture, which he will talk about in a moment, as the opening of that event. And Jim will be present on Saturday night, the 5th of March, for that performance. And he'll explain why he will not be able to be with us on the 4th. Jim?
Good evening. Thanks, and thanks for allowing me to speak to you for a little bit. I'm very excited about this event. I grew up just south of here in Lockport, Illinois, near Joliet, and lived in Michigan, and then Boston for a little while, and then Florida for almost 17 years. And then my wife and I looked at each other after 17 years and said, you know, we've had enough of this fun and sun. We need to move up to Lake Forest. And we are so thrilled to be here. We've been here about 2 years now, and we know that Lake Forest is going to be our home. We're going to stay here, and we're just so happy to be a part of this community and everything that goes with it, including the celebration on March 4th and 5th, where we'll be dedicating this piece to the city of Lake Forest in honor of the 150th anniversary. I get to travel. I'm fortunate as a composer, as a living composer. Most of us are dead. It's true. It's true. Yes, decomposing, yeah. But I'm very good. I'm fortunate to get to go to many places as a composer and be a part of celebratory events. I get commissioned to write for anniversaries or other important events, and usually it's obviously for a different community, but for me to be a part of this one, it's going to be for this community. It's going to be very exciting. I'm sorry I won't be there on March 4th. I'll actually be down near the White House with the President's Own Marine Band. They're going to be premiering a piece of mine down there, and I had already committed to be a part of that, so I can't be here on the 4th. But I will be here on the 5th talking about this piece, which appropriately is called Celebration Overture. And on top of it, there will be a dedication to the city of Lake Forest, which will be there for all time, that marks the importance of the event in the sesquicentennial. So any orchestra that plays this piece after March 4th and 5th of this year will see the city of Lake Forest on top. And so I hope anybody can make the concert. I'd love to see you there. Alan Hetherington is a fantastic musician, fantastic conductor, and I want to thank him publicly also for involving me in this event. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I'll say thank you to George and Jim. That's quite an honor that we get our own music composed for our own 150th event. And thank you, Jim and George, for all your hard work and efforts. I hope we get as many as the public as possible out that evening. And I know through the rest of the 150th year, this year, we're going to certainly enjoy your music. And this is coming from someone who loves music but has absolutely no musical ability whatsoever other than plugging in my iPod. So thank you very much.
That completes my report for this evening.
Our next item on the agenda is council committee reports, the first being the Finance Committee, Alderman Grumhaus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met earlier this evening. We have one item on the agenda that we need to take up, which is, as we discussed in Finance Committee, the consideration of an ordinance amending ordinance number 1026 establishing the Lake Forest Special Service Area 38, which is the Holland Court curb and storm sewer system. You know, we'd obviously talked about this before tonight as this process has gone on, and now we just need to make it into an ordinance. So if there are no questions, I'll take a motion to waive first reading and then a motion to grant final approval.
Waive first reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to approve. Second.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Grumhaus.
Aye.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Woodman.
Aye.
Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderman Morsch.
Aye.
Alderman Luby.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer. 7 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
Thank you, and that's it for the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Alderman Grumhaus. Our next on the agenda is the Housing Trust, Alderman Morsch.
The Housing Trust had a brief meeting earlier this month, and we heard a presentation on doing single-family homes. I know that's something Council's been interested in, and we are very hopeful that we'll come back with something pretty specific for you to think about. So, kind of excited about that. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Alderman Morsch. Our next item under Council Committee reports is Laurel and Western Avenue Redevelopment Committee. Alderman Morsch as well.
No report.
Thank you.
One of these days, you're going to walk in and say you've got the 15 million.
I got the
check,
buy
right?
for $15 million, right?
Just count on it.
Good report.
We're counting on it now. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I got 4 months.
Don't hold your breath.
Our next committee is the Legal Committee, Alderman Palmer.
No report.
The next committee is Senior Resource Commission, Alderman Novit.
And quick report. Unfortunately, I was not at the last meeting for Senior Resource on January 10th, and it was probably one of the more productive meetings I've had in a long time. I'm not sure how to figure that. But it was Marge Berta's last meeting as the head of the Senior Resource Committee, and she'll be sorely missed. She was wonderful, and yeah, I'm sad to see her go. But we actually have a new director, and that director until January 24th is actually Karina Walters, I think. So she surprised everyone and took over. But on January 24th, we do have a new head, Marla, and I'm going to butcher her name, but I have a few years to get it right, Sechtel, who will be leading. And she had been employed in Highland Park prior to this, and being part of the interview process, I think she's going to do wonderful. She may be a little different than Marge, but truly her enthusiasm, I think, will bring a new edge to the Senior Resource Center. I look forward to working with her. I'll miss Marge, but this is a new direction. Mike Thomas has been assisting Senior Resource in locating another vehicle, a bus, to replace the existing bus, which is at the end of its lifetime. And Mike is trying to find the best price at this point, and he will succeed. That's it so far, but we're embarking in a new direction. Also, as far as the finances for Senior Resource, the budget's looking healthy at this point. That's it.
Thank you. Just keep an eye on that Michael Thomas. He might come back with a minivan for you.
Well, if he takes
Screw
it,
you, so.
15.
it'd be nice if it's steered towards Dallas. Well, anyways, for the Super Bowl, but we'll find out.
He can arrange a driver for you as well. Our next committee report is Public Works Committee, Alderman Luby.
Public Works, we are looking for approval to purchase a few vehicles, some of them rather large. We've approved this in our earlier budget meetings, and it's gone through the Public Works Committee tonight as well as the Finance Committee. It's 3 trucks and 4 squad cars. The time to buy them is now before the state contract runs out for the bids. Once that happens, we don't know when the state will put it back in. We know there'll be a delay time in being able to get the trucks delivered, and hopefully we'll have them by fall of next year. The trucks that we went to buy last year due to delays, we still have not received them, and hopefully we'll be getting them by March or April. So it's buying them a little bit early, but we will need them, and due to delays in manufacturing and getting them here, it's a good time to get the orders in line to purchase them. So what we're looking for is we get approval tonight to go out and get on the state bid and purchase the 3 trucks and the 4 squad cars.
Can I make a motion to approve all 3, or?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Okay, can we do that, or do we have to do them individually? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve all 3.
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Grumhaus.
Aye.
Alderman Novak.
Aye.
Alderman Woodman.
Aye.
Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderman Morsch.
Aye.
Alderman Luby.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer. 7 yeas, no nays, motion carries.
And we'll be very happy with having nice, new, fresh squad cars out on the street.
That are coming in below budget. We like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alderman Luby. Our next committee report is the Transportation Safety Enhancement Committee, which I will report briefly on, that we will not have a meeting on January 24th. Our next meeting will be in February, but I would like to report that we're still working on the shelters at the West Side Train Depot, and Karina tells me that the shelters have been delivered, so we're waiting for installation, and the sooner the better. The weather's certainly not cooperating with us, but it would certainly be helpful to get them up and get them out there for the commuters. So we will hope to get that done as soon as practical, and that would be a nice addition to the West Side Train Depot. The next item on the agenda this evening is comments by council members. Any additional comments? No? We'll move on to opportunity for public to address the city council on non-agenda items. Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The first item is approval of the minutes to the January 3rd, 2011 city council meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Or was that a roll call vote?
Yeah, that one is okay since it's just a minute.
Okay, we're good on that. Our next item on the agenda is ordinances. The first being a consideration of an ordinance amending the city code regarding the impoundment of abandoned watercraft. This is first and final reading.
Mr.
Presented-
Mayor, just as a correction with Mary coming forward, we're just going to ask for first reading this evening on
Okay.
this item and then bring it back. There's a few minor legal changes that Vic wants to make between first and second reading.
Very good.
Nothing significant. At least that's what he tells me.
He's right.
Presented by Director of Parks, Mary Van Arsdale.
Good evening, thank you. This code that we're bringing forward tonight is a waterfront impoundment code, and the purpose for it was to allow us to have a procedure for marking, recording, storage, and disposal of watercraft in violation of the City of Lake Forest Code or state laws regarding abandoned or derelict watercraft. As you're aware, we have the boating facility down at the beach, and we're encountering a growing concern down there with watercraft and the proper processes that everybody is supposed to be following with regards to taking out permits and storage and fees, as well as removing their boats when they're no longer valid paid fee and user of that space. The definition, I just wanted to touch base for this code for an abandoned watercraft was, means any boat or watercraft located at the boat launching and storage areas which is deemed to be apparently deserted when the owner of which is at least 15 days past due on the payment of current permits or storage fees, or any boat or watercraft that has not have been moved or used for 15 consecutive days or more and is apparently deserted shall be deemed abandoned. And the third option would be a watercraft left unattended for a period of 24 hours in the boat basin should be deemed abandoned. The reason we wanted to have this code is currently we have no legal means and no structure around handling this growing concern that we have down there. We're not alone in this. We do know that other communities that have boat launch facilities here along this shore are also experiencing this challenge that we're facing as well. So moving on, I just kind of wanted to give you a frame of reference for the areas that we're talking about. This is what we call the sailboat compound. And the sailboat compound houses approximately 28 public boats are kept in that area. Currently, we have 8 that have stickers and 2 that are in default of fees. And then we have 3 that are on the waiting list that we aren't able to accommodate because we have these boats that have not kept up with their fees or using their stickers properly. So we are turning away current interest for our boat area. And the City of Lake Forest stores 22 boats within that compound area for the purpose of our own sailing and instructional program. The next area was the rack storage area. That sits down more on the sand, and it's really where you put more of the boards, the sailboard types facilities. We have 60 that we can accommodate on the racks and 4 on the sand. Currently, we have 28 paid, but we have 19 that are in default of paying the appropriate fees on the rack, the storage rack. So between the 2 areas, we're just beginning to see a bigger and bigger challenge down there to get people to abide by the information and policies that we currently send out for proper permit, storage, and launching of their boats.
Mary, are these, excuse my ignorance on this, are these
Yes.
all year facilities, or do we, in the wintertime, are these covered?
They
or
have a
moved?
choice of whether they do a seasonal storage or a year-round, so it's a little
Okay.
bit of mixed.
So those racks are still sitting there in the...
They do. They
the
sit
middle of
out,
winter, okay.
and that's part of the eyesore issue we have. We have some boats down there that have not been used or moved in a couple years, and leaves and debris and everything fall in that boat compound area, and they build up around those boats, so we have a cleanage. We have to clean in there to kind of keep that kind of issue down. And the other problem we have is if something is vandalized or if there's an issue in that area, we don't really have any good idea as far as when the damage occurred, because these are a lot of boat owners that haven't been coming down or been around their boat for a while. So it's a nice facility to offer the storage, but we also want to make sure it's being used not for just a place to leave your boat and not attend to it or use it for the purpose of watercraft enjoyment on Lake Michigan.
But if they have a current sticker and they're paid up, they can leave it there, right?
That's true. What we're seeing is that they may buy the sticker, but they're not bothering to put it on their boat down there. And part of then that challenge is our staff go around and they monitor this to see whether or not the boats are properly stickered. We have to look up the craft. Sometimes the craft then does have a sticker, but it's not placed on there. We notify them that the sticker has to be on there. They don't comply. So we spend a lot of time trying to monitor, making sure there are boats that are supposed to be in there are legitimate and that they're being used properly for the lakefront, purpose of launching boats.
Right,
So-
but this ordinance, you're still going to have to do all of those things in order to have it policed.
Correct.
So
We
I
would,
mean,
but we would.
this is to get the boats that are no good out, but once you police it and find it doesn't have a sticker, then you know that one doesn't have a sticker. So
Correct.
your maintenance and your work is going to be the same. The only thing is, this one is going to get us to dispose of the boat more quickly
Correct.
probably than other means.
Correct, and it will allow us to make sure that we can continue to encourage them to move their boats out so that we can accommodate new customers and
The next
residents that want
paying
to have
guy
it.
in.
What's
Right.
it?
The next paying person in.
Correct.
But if you have a boat and you keep the sticker on it and you put it on the right place and everything is good, all the registrations are up, and they decide not to sail it for whatever reason, then the boat would still just be sitting down there and still get leaves on it, et cetera, right?
That's correct.
So really, we're only looking at policing. We're making it easier for us to police the facility.
That is correct. I mean, I think one of the things we don't want to get into is people who are just using this as a storage facility, and there are other better options, whether it's in Waukegan or what have you, to take your boat, and if you're just going to be looking for a storage option to have it there, we're trying to encourage them to make this a space that is used by people who actually are going to plan to boat. So,
Well, that's what you'd want, right?
right.
But there's really not a way to stop that if they're actually keeping their payments all up.
Well, the only thing we are looking to see that they've used their boat in, last 15 days or sometime during the season.
15
If it sits
days.
there all season and is not used, we'd like to
Okay.
be able to go back to them and encourage them to, you know, recognize that it's
Yeah.
not just a storage
I
facility.
think 15 days is kind of short, though. I mean, I
Yeah,
might
well, I
not,
just wanted
I might
to
not
look
use
at-
my clubs in 15 days
Right.
for
Yeah.
golf. I mean,
Right.
Come now.
yeah, come on. I think you're going to need a longer period of time than that. I just don't think that that would be, a lot of boaters don't get out all that often, especially when it's a bigger boat.
I might note that in the ordinance, the intention is that two things have to exist. One, it has to have the 15 consecutive days of non-use, and it has to be apparently deserted, which is CODA for hasn't paid its fees.
Okay, all right.
Great.
But then we're only given 7 days before it's liquidated at a public sale.
No, the 7-day is that we would, for boats that are not, they do not have a sticker and we don't have any record of them, we're giving them 7 day, we'll put a sticker on there to let them know that this is going to start the process
But it was
of a
never a
30-day
legal
notice. What?
A boat that was never a legal boat, you don't know why it's there?
Right, correct. So that's the 7-day notice. Otherwise, it's a 30-day notice to give them a chance to get everything up to date, bring their paperwork into us, and show us that they actually bought a sticker.
How many boats do you get that were never supposed to be there and they have it parked in the storage?
Right now, we have, I believe, 8.
No, in compound storage, there are 2. In the sailboat rack, there are 19.
They never were supposed to be there, and they're
There's
the
19?
large sailboats?
Where? in the
There's
rack
19
or-
on the sale, on this rack, storage rack area that shouldn't be there at all. And we have 2 within the boat compound that we don't believe
That
should
have
be
never
there
bought
at
a
all.
permit, never done anything, they just brought their boat down and put it there? Wow.
Correct. Correct.
Is it-
And then,
is it contemplation of, when we pass this ordinance, you immediately will secure and impound them so that the boats can't just be removed without facing up to their responsibilities?
well, the,
Yes, that's what I mean.
well,
A boat boot.
the process, let me move forward to this next slide. So the process is that, what we will do is do a full inventory and make sure all of our records at this point in time clearly reflect what's occurred with their payment of fees or their delinquency. And then what we would do is start the notification process. That would be twofold. It would be those that are undocumented and have no records with us, and those that are registered but in default of their fees. So we would be notifying everybody from that perspective and stickering those boats down that we have no records on at all. From that, then we would begin the disposal sequence that would say, you have 30 days to clear this record up with us, get everything, straight, so then we can make a decision on whether or not we're going to go to the next step, which would be our enforcement, which would allow us then to make some judgments on these boats, whether or not, and we have to do it legally by, according to state law, the age of the boat, and that kind of thing on how you dispose of it. So there would be then the enforcement aspect. So after we have the 30 days, we still don't get anything cleared. They have not contacted us. They're not responding to the city's ordinance and codes. Then we begin the enforcement process, which would be allow them to come before a hearing to appeal their case or their situation, or to appeal the fines that we may actually have also identified that they do owe us for it.
How many years has this been a problem?
Well, we've started tracking the last 2 years for sure, and before that, it's been evident but not, actually tracked. So we have at least 2 years of experience with
If
this.
it's taken 2 to 20 years to build up to this problem, that there might be an entire community that says, put your boat down there and nothing happens. And I think it would be overly aggressive, I guess, to give them, but how would they know? They're not going to go down there this winter to look at their boats.
Well,
But if it happened next summer sometime and we gave them a couple of months and by the 4th of July, the place is cleaned up, that might be more reasonable, I think. I don't have any boats down there, by the way, but it just seems.
Well, the intent is to use
I have 8 of them
these-
that I'm going to go claim tomorrow.
The intent is here to give us a tool.
Yeah, it sounds harsh. I think it's a little too aggressive.
Exactly. If you don't know who they are, how are you ever going to notify them in the middle of the
Exactly.
winter?
And they're going to come back next summer.
And the boat's gone.
Is there a sign that says you have to pay to put your boat here?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
There
yes,
is.
it is signed down
So
there.
they know they're violating. There's no
Yes.
doubt?
Correct. But I mean, the timing sequence can adjust if we want to do the 7 that we have identified that we don't know at all, or the 19 that we don't have anything on. We can adjust that. But the bigger boats, especially in the compound area, those boats, they either need to be permitted by us or have their fees paid up by us. We know who those are with the exception of 2. So there's no reason we can't address this problem this winter and get the summer up and going and we have people who would like to use this facility and can't because we have people who just they just are not responding at all to our appeals to pay their fees, and it's a loss of revenue to the city, for this, and it's pretty simple. It's not a hard process.
It's like
to
a parking
fill our
ticket. If they
paper
don't
out.
pay, they ought to go.
Well,
Right.
Mr.
And-
Mayor,
I mean,
members
no
of the
question.
council, let me just offer this as a suggestion, because this being the first year, and there's obviously a number of boats that have been abandoned, and how they got there, I think we could all speculate. But we can implement this, but rather than get to the point of selling them within 30 days, we can, to follow on Alderman Moore's point, we can actually relocate them to the municipal service building, because come May, June, July, if they are looking for them, they will come to us one way or another, and we will find. And we could set July 1 as the date that says, okay, nobody who's contacted us by July 1, then we will initiate the sale process. But
We
I
have to
think
pay for the transfer and the storage.
Correct.
and-
that's right.
And
'cause then-
that's all in the code that identifies that we have the ability to move them off-site with impoundment and hold them to whatever date we determine that we would dispose of them.
Right, because
So-
then they're there, but what it does do is it opens up those opportunities for us to then sell a permit to get somebody in, because they're going to be wanting to look to buy those permits soon and not wait till July 1. We will lose another whole year if we wait till July 1 and leave them there.
Along those lines, when I read my packet, I wrote the word amnesty kind of at the beginning of this thing. So maybe you can institute some kind of, come and get it now
Right.
and be gone. And we won't get you for back fees or anything, just go away.
These were some of the ways
Something like
we'd
that, certainly for residents.
This is some of the ways we identified that we'd begin to get the word out about this, that we are serious about wanting to make sure that residents use our facilities appropriately. And we can do the registered letters to those we have, on record with us. We always have the seasonal brochure insert that goes about the beach and the lakefront that goes in the dialogue. And we can add a section now that talks about, the enforcement needs down at the lakefront and how to properly get your permits. And then we can also reach out to the yacht club. They know a lot of these people who have boats down there and use their newsletter and ways to get a hold of people that have boats. And of course, the last thing is we'll have our permit packets going out in the spring. And in that, we can also give that information that says we will no longer, allow this kind of inactivity and leaving of your boats down there without payment of fees. That we'll be moving forward, and we can outline that. So I think we have a lot of great ways to reach out to all different opportunities to find everybody that's involved down there and try to get that clearly identified before, we take too serious of action on it. We really don't want to be in the business of, having to liquidate boats or deal with any of that, but without having some teeth behind this, there seems to be no impetus behind these individuals to do it after multiple ways that we've tried to contact them and ask them to get current with their information.
Is the ownership of these boats really a mystery, or does Sally and her crew really kind of maybe have an idea about who they might be, or? Okay.
We have a better idea, I think, in the compound than we do on all the boards. They're a little harder to track.
You
so.
commented that boats are left in the water as well. Do people leave their boat, just take it down and put it in the water and leave it?
Yeah, they stole it from Waukegan, drive it up here and go. I mean, come on.
Yeah, pirates are dropping them off, Somalians.
We do, our staff during the time we have staff down there, they're always encouraging, you can only stay, stop.
Well, that's what I thought, so I
and
just-
leave. But we do have some fishing type situations where they'll tie up and leave it overnight down there, and those
Okay.
kinds of things, so.
Why don't we just
They're
put...
going to be surprised when they get there the next morning.
Well, I mean, rather than being an abandoned boat and towing it out in the middle of the night, why don't we just put a ticket on it? Like a parking ticket.
Exactly.
Well-
A boot.
I'm for teeth.
But
I'm
some
just not for
people won't mind that,
Tyrannosaurus
and it's
Rex.
worth it to them, and that's gonna impede our ability to have a good day the next day as far as where they tie those boats up, and we have liability exposure too.
Well, no, I agree with all
Having those boats
that.
left down there unattended, so we don't want that either.
I just think going at it as an abandoned boat, because the guy tied it up to the side when he left for the night because he was out of gas or something, he ought to get a good ticket.
Right.
But I think claiming he's abandoned his boat might be.
Well, that's why it is 24 hours, it's a full day.
Yeah.
We realize that there might be emergency situations that we would want to be flexible with, but
And there would still be the ultimate notice before any sale occurs, so it's just a matter of getting it out of the water and having the authority to
But are we gonna put a fine on for leaving it there, or do we have one now?
It is one thing that I know that Sally is working with as far as whether or not we do a fine on that. All of them have the ability for us to have different fines for storage fees. We haven't necessarily had a fee for the marina basin if you abandon your boat. We haven't created
Are
that
people
yet.
allowed to stay overnight in their boat down there? Because I know when it was first built, some people in their larger sailboats had set them in, and they'd be down there with their family, and they might stay overnight Saturday night into Sunday. And I know that
Sally,
when I
do you
sat
know
on
the
the...
answer to that? I don't know that.
We
We-
have not really had any occasion of that in the
Okay.
last 10 years.
That's because the harbor got shallow, yeah.
Yeah, you might get in, you never get out, you know?
Yeah. So there is no rule on that if you're actually in your boat overnight?
There is no rule on
There is no rule on that. I know we approved that in the Facilities Committee years ago to do it, but...
Vic, I think I hear all the city council saying they like it a little tamer. Are you gonna keep that in mind as you redraft this?
I mean, the 15 days, to be 15 days late and be called abandoned is,
It's a little,
that seems, I mean, I think we give 30 days on the parking sticker, don't we, or 60 days? Unless you buy the new car, and then you only have like 3 days, I found out a couple of weeks ago. 15 days, more like 30 days might be a little bit nicer.
If they're in the water, we may have maritime laws we have to
But-
adhere to.
And Vic, one question on the writing of this. If someone's hasn't paid, but they're still using their boat every 10 days, are they in violation?
No, it has to be both.
Yes, they have to have current fees in order to launch at our facility.
They're in hot
They
water.
may not be abandoned, but they would be in violation.
All right.
Yeah, I would suggest that the Article 2, at least, definitions be made clearer, because
Again, those are some of the things that we intend to clean up on.
yeah, I mean, the boat owners have to know what's okay and what's not okay.
Yeah, and again, I'm getting the sense that council's kind of disconnecting a little bit. These time periods just merely trigger the notice. At that point, there's a 30-day notification time period. So
And
it's,
again, I'm sorry, that's one of the things we want to try to clarify, is that on the one hand, it's what makes you an abandoned vehicle, on the other hand, it's the process, and some of those got a little bit combined in that section too.
yeah, so it's not
We want to
just
straighten that out.
7 days and the boat's not used and it's
That's right.
towed, burnt and gone. And there's a notice that goes out at that point to notify the owner.
That would be the process, correct.
Yeah,
And in
so-
fact, I mean, the notice is actually prepared. This is the ordinance that will then allow the notice to be utilized.
So the process is actually a lot slower.
Yeah.
I say we just pull the plug on the violators.
and the mayor jumps right in.
All right. Anyone else?
So we'll bring it back at the next meeting with a lot of that type of information cleared up.
You got
Got
it.
a sense of, I guess, where you would like us to maybe soften it, or, you know, make sure it's a little clearer exactly how we process them.
So, motion approved first reading.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item this evening is new business. First being a consideration and approval of intergovernmental program agreement between the City of Lake Forest, the Parks and Recreation Department, and Lake Bluff Park District. Again, presented by Director of Parks and Recreation, Mary Van Arsdale. So Mary, you're going to have a tough act to follow up on that one, so
This is a two-slide presentation, so it should be pretty.
if you're telling us that we're taking over Lake Bluff, let us know now.
Going to impound.
Impound it.
I know earlier,
Only if they misbehave, Bob.
15 days over.
We're going to start marching to VFW on
I know
Lake
earlier
Bluff.
this year, Bob was, brought before the city council intergovernmental agreement that we were looking at from the city and we put in place with the school districts as an example, and trying to find ways for us as government to be more efficient and effective with our resources, whether it's financial, space, or what have you. And even tonight you heard Michael Thomas do some background information about how we could do some expansion of intergovernmental agreements that would again help us share and better utilize resources amongst municipalities. So this is kind of that same concept. Excuse me, and it came out of a little bit out of the ad hoc finance committee's work and recommendation as well. And so we're just bringing this forward, and the concept here was it's a program agreement, and the goal here was to really find ways that the Lake Bluff Park District and the Parks and Recreation Department of the city could put our heads together on opportunities that would enhance both of our communities. And this one is kind of where we identified in the resolution that we gave you, where we saw some of the big benefits of this program. We felt we could see some greater marketing exposure by using opportunities of each other's brochures or at different events to cross-promote and market services that we have. We also thought it would help reduce duplication of services. A great example of this one is they don't have a wildlife discovery center or necessarily that kind of property, and yet we do, and we would love to, you know, see as many visitors enjoy that space and learn about nature and environment and that kind of thing. And we don't have a paddle tennis facility as an example, but they have one. And rather than all of us trying to build those things for each of our own communities, where can we take opportunities there to really allow our residents from the two communities to enjoy them to the benefit of the organization that, you know, is trying to pay for its expenses and provide a quality facility. The third benefit we identified was it really strengthens our financial and service delivery because there's opportunities to combine enrollments with some of our programs. And I put a brief list of some of them that we've already been doing, but we know that we could possibly expand that. An example would be boys basketball. They had a few teams in Lake Forest. We had a few teams in, we have lots of teams in Lake Forest, I should say, a few teams in Lake Bluff. And we recently put the boys basketball program together. And by doing that, it made a more interesting program for the Lake Bluff kids because there's a few more teams to play. And from the Lake Forest perspective, it gave us another gym to use, so that freed up a little bit of our time, and we could also get our schedules done in a time frame that the games are a little bit earlier and we aren't having to go so late at night and those kinds of opportunities there. So we've been looking at ways we can combine those enrollments so we don't cancel programs. Our girls basketball is one, on the other hand, that they've been trying to get going. Last year they had 2 teams and we had 3 teams. But by putting them together, we had 5 teams, and we thought we could get the program going. This year we didn't quite hit that. We ended up canceling them in both communities, so we still need to continue to work on that. But those are the kinds of things where the numbers get so low, it does make great sense to put them together so the kids can still enjoy those kinds of programs. The next one was increases our flexibility with space, and by that we mean a little bit what I've touched upon, but there's opportunities for us with this space to make adjustments where our cooperative programming, we could move it up there for a season, which gives us the opportunity to introduce something new at the rec center. Then the next session around, it could be at their, back at our facility and vice versa. So it really allows us to kind of expand and do some creative things with our spaces rather than just traditionally locking them up for the same programs in and day out. The next one was achieves economy of scale to reduce costs. And that really is an opportunity for us to keep our staff wages down. We aren't both paying for staff to run a program. We aren't both paying for the impacts on our facilities, and we can do supplies together instead of having to both have basketball supplies for all the facilities. So those are some of the ways we felt this could really help us from a programming benefit. And I guess the last thing is it really from the youth side of this perspective is to help build some relationships before high school. We already know that they do that sometimes through other sport activities that they're doing, but if we can do it in other ways, whether it's through nature programs or whether it's through our preschool classes or what have you, I think it's a great win-win for both communities to try to find those. Now, it isn't an agreement that really says we're going to do everything together. That's really not the intent here. I mentioned it's not a way we're saying we're going to be doing our capital, equipment replacement together, or, you know, we're not moving together so much as far as agreeing to pull into the pool referendum, or, you know, if we have our own facilities and they are running well and they're maxed at capacity, we may not be necessarily reaching out to each other. But where we have opportunities, we're going to try to identify those, have our staffs work together, and try to, you know, continue to offer these program opportunities together. I would mention, too, that the way we were perceiving moving this forward is we would then run the programs, and then we'd go back and apportion the revenue expense and figure out the budget, so it's a proportion appropriate to the level of participation and or the impact to whoever hosts the program, so that it's a fair financial endeavor at the end of the day for all the parties. And we would do this, we thought we'd put this in place for 2 years, give us a chance to kind of get it off the ground, get used to doing that. Annually, we will prepare reports that will go to the Park Board for us and for the Park District Board in Lake Bluff, to kind of keep everybody apprised of what's been working, what we've learned, you know, through this process, and down the road we may want to expand this agreement or revise something since it's still pretty new. But that was kind of the intent of it. The Park Board did like this direction that we were headed as well, and they discussed it and approved the concept at their September 14th meeting. And I know the Lake Bluff Park District Board has discussed it at their board level as well, and has also approved the resolution.
Are there any measurable cost savings? Any potential for increased costs? A coordinator for this program, or anything that would? I mean, they're all great points. The only measurable one up there is reduced costs. Is there any evidence of cost reduction in a green dollar?
Well,
way? I would hate to see reduced costs and then end up with a project coordinator to coordinate the two towns.
Right now we're doing with existing staff as an example, because we have the larger number of kids for the basketball program. Joe Mobile is pretty much running that and just folded in the Lake Bluff kids. But the staff that are already there are helping us coordinate those, you know, making sure the schedules get out to the parents, and we have the right registration and mailing lists and things like that.
I don't mean how the basketball programs work, and I was wondering if there's any measurable cost reductions.
I think that's our goal as we go forward, is where can we identify those opportunities. We don't have them just yet with our programs.
Any potential cost increases?
No, we don't think so. I think the one thing is, if one community is used to, let's say, a higher level Jersey, or, you know, at the nature program they have a transportation cost in order to, we have to add that into the program in order to make allow everybody to participate. But we usually set our program fees to offset any of our expenses, so I don't really think it'll be a negative to the city to do a cooperative program option. I think that the other thing, like the paddle tennis, or whether or not it's the nature center, just being able to appeal to those residents and have them come in actually will help keep our costs down, because we'll have more people participating and kind of helping us. The cost might be somewhat fixed, but if we have more people registering, it'll actually lower our overall expense to the city. So those are the kinds of things we do want to track as we continue to move this forward.
Mary or Vic, I read this. It's kind of mom and apple pie, and there's no meat to it. I was just wondering why. It sounds like you're doing all this already. What do we need an agreement to do it for? Is there a legal reason we have to have it in place?
I think the notion was to memorialize this so that there is some insurance of continuity over the 2-year period. And we do have, there's a couple of things. One, our current policies do provide it generally for Lake Forest, so we wanted to make sure we had the council's seal of approval on this. One thing I would note, if you look at section 4 of the agreement, we should, just to keep it consistent with the city code, identify the director of parks, forestry, and recreation as designee of the city manager. So we'd be adding those 6 words as designee of the city manager.
Excuse me, Tom, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not quite sure what the second sentence in paragraph 2 means. Revenues and expenditures, I think I have an idea what you're trying to say, but revenues and expenditures will be apportioned based on the residency of the registrant and conducted as required to ensure compliance with annual fiscal calendars. Are you saying that the revenues and expenditures of a particular combined program will be allocated based upon the proportion of registrants from the respective cities?
Correct.
Okay.
And then that the billing,
fix that.
the billing and anything that we would do once the program is finished needs to be done in a timely fashion so that we are fully knowledgeable of what our expenses and our revenues are before we go into new fiscal years and those kinds of things.
I thought you mentioned the hosting group would be involved in, that would be, whoever hosted it would be that's how the revenue would be split. Isn't that what you just said earlier?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, if one of the communities is hosting, they would be, how, have you just talked about this a little bit earlier, how is that related to the revenue?
It's not related so much to the
It's
revenue,
the
other than that if we were to absorb a whole program and we had to move something out of our facility in order to have a much bigger program at our site, we may discuss then what that would be as a loss to us if we needed to accommodate it in a different space. But I think we have to kind of see where that falls. We aren't, there's not a perfect model for every single program. You know, that's one of the things, we need some flexibility when it comes to programs. They're very fluid. They may run one semester, not run the next, session that you do it. So we're trying to put our heads together and find the way at the end of the day it's fair and equitable based on how we manage it and how much time we put in. And we're going to share that. I mean, we're doing the basketball right now. I think that they're going to be doing, some programs this summer that that will be more their responsibility to have the oversight of it. So we'll trade that off and use our staff appropriately in that fashion. Stu, did I answer your question?
We'll clarify.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a drafting issue. I think it can be resolved.
Right.
And Mary, simply put, it's a framework. It allows us to create more programs for our residents. Obviously, it avoids duplication, so it is the beginning of something that will be an advantage to all our residents in a financially challenged time. So I think this is a great framework to move forward.
Thank you. I do think we wanted an opportunity to make the communities more aware of it and have something from which to work from. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Grumhaus.
Aye.
Alderman Novit.
Aye.
Alderman Woodman.
Aye.
Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderman Morsch.
Aye.
Alderman Luby.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
7 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
Thank you, Bertie. Any other additional items for council discussion?
I have one. I would just like to point out, if I may, the letter from the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation. I thought it was well put together. I thought it was a very succinct letter. I didn't think it represented any ridiculous sides of anything, and I just thought I was happy to get it, happy to see some reason in this contentious issue. So
That's the letter in reference to Forest Park.
right, if you did, you have it? Everyone has it? Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.